Wassup YouTube, PokePrimer here, your coach of the Hazleton Hoopas, primed and ready to deliver you the team building video for this week's battle in week 2 of the PFCFL Season 2. Last week we had a very impressive start with this ragtag team of misfit toys against Jacob and the Carlisle Goodras, coming out with a 4-0 against the Goodras, leaving us at 1-0 with a +4 differential. And I'm pretty sure we're actually at the top of our division right now, so we're off to a fantastic start at the beginning of the season, but anything can happen, and the team we're facing this week is insanely good, as we are taking on Steven, who is the coach of the Lisburn Rapidashes. And his team, his draft, is absolutely terrifying, especially since he just recently picked up a new free agent in the form of Staraptor to kind of fix his fighting weakness on his team. And he picked up Staraptor, and that's very scary for my team. His full roster is Mega Gardevoir, Zapdos, Staraptor, Tentacruel, Roserade, Mamoswine, Gastrodon, Delphox, Sigilyph, Raichu, Luxray, and Kingler. That team is absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating. I'm scared to face Steven, in all honesty. His team is really stacked with threats. A couple things that I do notice, though. He does have 4 Pokemon weak to Ice, also 4 Mons weak to Electric as well, and a bunch of Mons weak to Ground and Rock as well. So that's something that I took into account during team building. He has a lot of electric immunities as well, so I'm going to have to be really careful with that. And he also has a 4 times weakness to Grass with 2 other Mons weak to Grass on top of it. So there's a lot of things going into this that I really had to look at and really think about when it came to team building for this week. But I feel like the team of 6 that I'm bringing this week is more than enough to cover all of our potential weaknesses, as well as covering all of the weaknesses on his side. The first Mon that we are bringing this week, who didn't even get a chance to shine last week, is Chun-Li, the Mega Lopunny, rocking an Adamant Nature, 4 into HP, 4 into Defense, max attack with 188 speed and 60 special defense. 60 special defense is there because a lot of his team is predominantly special attackers. In fact, 8 out of 4 of his roster are predominantly made as special attackers. So having that tiny little extra bit of special bulk could be the difference between us living a hit and us being taken out. The 4s are just kind of there. Everyone knows those are kind of meaningless in the long run. Max attacks Adamant so we can hit hard, and 188 speed again so that we can outspeed naturally every Mon on his team, as his fastest Mon being Raichu maxes out at 178 speed. And now we're here sitting at 179. So that's kind of the thought process there. Obviously, if something is scarfed, it'll take us out, no problem. But that's something we're just going to have to scout out for throughout the match. As you can see, moveset, we have Drain Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Iron Tail. Fantastic coverage for his whole team. After Stealth Rocks, Drain Punch is a guaranteed OHKO on Mamoswine. It does a minimum of like 99% as is, but it guaranteed OHKO obviously after Rocks. So I didn't need to pack High Jump Kick this week, as I don't want to take those kind of unnecessary risks at all if I don't have to. Like, I brought High Jump Kick last week because of the Reggie trio. I needed that to cause significant damage to any of them, as Drain Punch just didn't do the damage I wanted it to do. As this week, we do have the ability to run just Drain Punch, and not only do we get a reliable form, semi-reliable form of recovery, as he has no Ghost types, it also provides us with that safety of not having to worry about missing and crashing and hurting ourselves. So the Drain Punch is there. That's going to be able to handle the Mamoswine. We definitely outspeed that thing 100% of the time, so we should be good to go there. Ice Punch is there for pretty much almost everything on his team. The Zapdos, the Staraptor. Only the Staraptor if we can figure out if it's not Scarfed. The Staraptor is not Scarfed. We can bring Lopunny in and Ice Punch the hell out of it, and it goes down 100%. We can easily take it out with an Ice Punch, and that'll be fantastic. Zapdos, Staraptor, Roserade, and the Sigilyph. Gotta be careful. Test out the waters and see if any of them are Scarfed. Because if any of them are Scarfed, we have a problem. Basically, we have a problem, and we won't be able to safely bring Chun-Li in on them, especially since Sigilyph, both of its typings are super effective on us, and Staraptor and Zapdos both can do decent damage to us as well. More from Staraptor than Zapdos, but nonetheless. Thunder Punch is there because he has a Tentacruel, and Tentacruel isn't that physically bulky, so a Thunder Punch to a Tentacruel could easily take it out. And the good part about that is as well, that's his only Rapid Spinner that I'm seeing. I believe he does have he has a few mons with Defog, but his only Rapid Spinner is Tentacruel, and if he decides to bring Rapid Spinner on his Tentacruel and not Defog Zapdos, which I believe he might bring as well, that could be another option. Maybe an option of taking that out. The Thunder Punch will also do massive damage to his Kingler, which is another threat, and it's another secondary way of hitting the flying types in Sigilyph and Staraptor. Iron Tail is there because he has a Mega Gardevoir. And being able to catch that thing off guard with an Iron Tail early on in the match, or even later on in the match, would be absolutely fantastic if we can OHKO that thing with a quick Iron Tail from Chun-Li, taking out that massive, massive threat to my team earlier on would be fantastic. So that's going to be our Mega Lopunny set. Next up, we're going to have Entei. Entei is making his debut appearance this season. We're bringing, obviously, the Evententei with Extreme Speed, Sacred Fire, Iron Head, and Bulldoze. Rocking a Choice Band to hit as hard as possible. Nice and very bulky set this week with 248 HP, max attack, Adamant, with 4 into Special Defense and 4 into Speed. Now, while we're not trying to outspeed anything with this Entei, we're trying to still hit hard. Extreme Speed is there because we have +2 priority, and we're going to outspeed just about anything, and we can hit it really hard in a last-ditch effort kind of situation. Sacred Fire is an insanely powerful move that, as long as we keep hitting it, which I'm pretty sure, yeah, it has 95 actually, so as long as we keep hitting it, we have a 50% chance to burn our opponent, which is fantastic to have against any of his mons who might try to switch in on this thing, or we can hit really hard and get a burn on. That mon is then kind of crippled if it's a physical attacker, or it has residual damage on it if it's a special attacker. Iron Head is there specifically for the Gardevoir. We can eat up Hyper Voices for days easily with this set. We can eat up a Hyper Voice, no problem, and then hit it back extra hard with an Iron Head. Now, actually, looking at this set, I have another Assault Vest usually late in the game. Never mind. I was thinking about potentially making this Assault Vest, but it just doesn't seem feasible to me at this point, so we're not going to do that. But the Bulldoze is there for all the mons that are weak to ground moves, like Tentacruel, who would typically be a switch-in to an Entei, so we can have that as a thought in our process in our head. Delphox, which could also be a switch-in, Raichu, and Luxray as well. While they can still hit us, they're obviously going to outspeed us. We have a way of hitting them, slowing them down to the point where we could potentially outspeed them as well again and take them out on the next turn. And if something else comes in on a Bulldoze, well then shit, they get decent damage on them and they get their speed dropped if they're not a flying type. So that's fantastic. And if our next Mon can do his job, those flying types coming in are going to be taking some serious damage, because our next Mon is going to be Zitz the Seismitoad, holding the leftovers with Water Absorb, 248 HP, 4 defense, 4 special attack, and max special defense with a sassy nature. We're going full on specially defensive this week because of all of the special threats. Now, moveset is going to be Stealth Rocks. We need the rocks up. If we can get the rocks up, half his team gets hit with 25% damage on switch-in. Staraptor, Zapdos, Sigilyph if it's not Magikarp, obviously. Delphox gets hit by 25%. Basically, a lot of his team is weak to rocks, and that's really, really good for us if we can get those up and keep them up. Scald is there to as a stab move and to hit the Mamoswine really hard, potentially pick up burns on things, hit the Delphox real hard if we can. Earth Power is there for all of those ground weaknesses that were previously mentioned. It's a nice dual stab setup on Seismitoad here. Hidden Power Grass is here so that the Gastrodon doesn't wall us, because in any situation the Gastrodon completely walls us. Hidden Power Grass does a little over half, and even with a minus speed nature, we have the potential to still outspeed the Gastrodon, because I don't believe he'll be running speed on his Gastro, and Gastrodon without speed caps out, I believe, at about 50 something. So if we're sitting at a nice 84 speed, we should easily outspeed it and be able to take it out with 2 successive Hidden Power Grasses. He'd have to end up sitting there recover stalling, and that would just be agitating for him to have to do and for us to have to deal with. So we can make him recover spam or just switch out easily. So this thing pretty much shuts down his Gastro 100% of the time. And that's a really nice thing to have, because Gastrodon is a fantastic wall, and it was one of the mons I personally wanted to draft in the league. So I'm kind of bummed we didn't get it, but I'm glad we get to face it early on, so we don't have to deal with it later in the season. The next mon we're bringing this week is going to be Ghostbuster, the Dust and Wire, with a fully physically defensive set, 248 HP, 4 attack, 4 special defense, and max defense with an impish nature. We're going to eat every physical hit that ever happens. Honestly, we're just going to eat everything. Obviously, we're not switching to a Brave Bird from a Reckless Staraptor or something like that. But we can come in against Mamoswine, potentially burn it. We can come in safely against a Kingler, although it potentially has knockoff and that could be a problem. But we could potentially burn it. We can come in against a Luxray and Earthquake it. We can do a lot of things with this Ghostbuster. Holding leftover risk is going to help us a lot to try and figure things out. I really do want a situation where I can bring Ghostbuster in against Staraptor and find out what item it's holding. Because based upon the item it's holding, and I'll explain later, we actually have a way of sweeping up this entire match with one of our later mons, and it could potentially be, yeah. But that's a thing. Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split are here. Pain Split's obviously for to make sure we live a little bit longer, so we have some form of longevity on the field. Will-O-Wisp to get those burns on mons, get that nice and residual damage. Shadow Sneak is going to hit the Gardevoir nice and hard. We're going to hit the Delphox nice and hard and the Sigilyph nice and hard. None of them are very physically bulky, so Shadow Sneak should do decent damage. And the Earthquake is there for all the aforementioned ground weaknesses that we can easily do decent damage to with our Dust and Wire. Next mon is going to be our Assault Vested Shaymin. If you can tell by the theme of this week, besides Lopunny, we're not going for a very speedy setup. We're going for more of a bulky offensive setup to kind of try and whittle down his bulky mons and whittle down his hard offensive threats at the same time. Because we need to be able to eat the hits that he's sending our way, but we need to be able to hit him back just as hard. So we're going max HP, max special attack, modest with 4 into special defense to make the Assault Vest just a little bit better. Move set of Seed Flare, Psychic, Earth Power, and Hidden Power Ice. Seed Flare is there for the Gastrodon. This mon also completely shuts down the Gastro. Unless it's packing Ice Beam, it can't really do anything to us. If it tries to Tox us, we have Natural Curse, so swap in and out can easily fix the issues of a Toxic. Seed Flare completely decimates it. We eat any other hit that it wants to throw at us, be it an Earth Power or a Scald. We can eat those for days. Seed Flare also will do decent damage to the Mamoswine if it wants to try and switch into us for some reason, and it will do really, really good damage to the Kingler as well if it wants to come in, if it wants to come this week. Psychic is there because it needs something that can hit the Tentacruel and the Roserade. Roserade would typically wall a normal Shaymin set, but packing Psychic allows me to hit that thing really, really hard, and we can pretty much eat a lot of hits that come from that thing, even a Sludge Bomb, potentially, so that could be a thing that we look into doing. Earth Power is there for all of the ground weaknesses, Tentacruel included. So we have two things that can handle the Tentacruel, which would also kind of wall our set in a way, especially if it's especially defensive. We have two things that can hit super effectively and could do decent damage with. The Earth Power just decimates the Raichu as well as the Luxray. None of them appreciate one. Hidden Power Ice is there for all of the flying types that would most definitely want to switch in on us. So we can fire off a Hidden Power Ice on a potential switch and cause some serious damage to one of his very bulky flying types. I would predict, if anything, Zapdos would probably come in on our Shaymin, to be honest. Zapdos would wall Shaymin normally, but with HP Ice we can take it out after a couple of those. So that's really, really good for us. And if we can time it right, if we can predict his roosts correctly, we can potentially hit it with an Earth Power as well when he tries to roost up. So that's a thing. Now, Dusknoir's Frisk comes into play for our last Mon, being Helix, the Omastar, making his debut as well this week, holding a White Herb with Shell Armor, 196 Defense, the Bold Nature, 196 Special Attack, and 116 Speed. 116 Speed guarantees that after a Shell Smash, which we are packing this week, after a Shell Smash, we outspeed everything on my opponent's team. Absolutely everything on my opponent's team is outsped. And that's really nice. So, once we get a Shell Smash off, which, if planned out correctly, we can easily do so. And I have a plan as to how that can go down. So, hopefully we can apply it this week. Hopefully that'll happen. If not, it'll bite us in the ass, and that's a problem. But we have Shell Smash, Ice Beam, Scald, and Earth Power, which is coverage enough to take out his entire team, which is really good. Basically, if we can bring Dusknoir in against Staraptor, and we can see if it's Scarfed or not. Bait it into going for a Brave Bird. We can potentially just go for, I don't know, a Pain Split or something. Bait it into going for a Brave Bird. If it's Scarfed, if it's Scarfed Reckless, this works. Because Scarfed doesn't do as much damage. So we can bring Helix in. It can eat the hell out of a Brave Bird. Max 53, but min is like 46. So it all depends on the rolls. It can't crit us with Shell Armor, and we can set up a Shell Smash against the Staraptor. It could also kind of work if we are against the, I believe the Tentacruel is a, no, Tentacruel is a bad example. If he brings Banted Mamoswine and he goes for Ice Shard on something, we can easily bring Helix in against an Ice Shard and set up there. Luxray, depending on what his Luxray goes for, we potentially set up on that. Kingler could be another potential setup on Mon. But Omastar, if we can get Omastar set up, we win. Ice Beam takes out Zapdos, Staraptor, Roserade, and Sigilyph 100%. They also it also does decent damage to the rest of his team if necessary. Scald is a nice stab move that hits across every one of his mons besides the Tentacruel and the Roserade, and the Tentacruel, Roserade, and Gastro, and the Kingler. And then Earth Power is a solid move that takes out the rest of his team. Basically, it's going to come down to hopefully we can get lucky and get a Shell Smash off. If we can, But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this week because we're using a couple new mons from the team. Hopefully these sets work. I'm really excited because I finally get to use Entei. I finally get to use Shaymin. I finally get to use Omastar. I'm just worried because this team is very ragtag, as you can tell. Obviously, I mean, this is the best we can do against Steven's team with what we have. I mean, Mega Gardevoir with the right moveset can almost destroy our entire team, to be honest. And that's kind of a problem. Staraptor does really good damage to a lot of our team. Tentacruel, I'm not a fan of Tentacruel being here. Tentacruel kind of hurts a lot of our team. His team's scary, but I feel like if we play as well as we did in week 1, we can no doubt come out on top against Steven this week. So if you guys are hyped and ready for week 2 of the PFCFL here on the channel, please make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go Hoopas. Till next time, guys, I'm PokePrimer.